working alongside with profitability?
So, when we are talking of workplace spirituality, we are making it very much measurable, and the motto of research has only been to enhance employees' performance and improve organizational profitability. This has been the core of research in across B schools wherever this research has been conducted. So profitability as an end result of workplace spirituality has been very well established. So if we have to say it in a very crude way, we are all very unique individuals. Like I am unique, you are unique. Everyone here is very unique in their own ways, not replicable. So if that spirit of the person is engaged, the full potential of the person is engaged, then obviously we attain something known as lean in terms of human potential also. And that leads to sustained competitive advantage for the organization and obviously increase in profitability.
What of your concepts are going to be game changing to the existing metrics, or how is it going to complement, or how is it corresponding with these?
So when we say incorporating it in the current systems, we are nowhere telling to do away with the current systems, because obviously they exist for a reason. We still need balanced scorecard. We still need the performance management system. We still need recruitment systems, learning and development, exit. So the entire life cycle of employees still remains the same. Just that an additional dimension of evaluation gets added. So when we are recruiting people, are we also assessing them on 4 parameters of workplace spirituality, which is finding meaning in life through work, having interconnectedness at work, your values and organizational values matching, having compassion at work. So are we including these in the recruitment? Are they also a part of their performance management cycle? So in the balanced scorecard, if we have 4 parameters, can we have a 5th parameter? And even when there is an exit, so if has there been a grievance over there? So incorporating it in the current system is the only game changer. So it's an add-on. It's not something that is being brought up to change everything. It's an add-on which is the need of the current times.
Definitely. I mean, I'm sure all of us here would also agree that each organization has a different level of maturity, and I mean, what is relevant at kind of a startup ecosystem to a very matured organization, the metrics and the way of working, the processes are going to be quite different. So where do you see your recommendations which are applicable universally across? Or how would you recommend? Is there anything that has to be customized? Or is there anything that is very particular to an organization of this size? Or anything very relevant to very nascent industry? How would you define that?
We have to implement spirituality at work in a startup ecosystem, in a company which is just starting off. We see it as a very low-hanging fruit because the culture is being just established. So it is very easy to have an OD intervention there. But for the established companies, we see a tenure of 2 to 3 years, wherein first there is buying at the top, and then we have champions at each level, and then it gets incorporated in the existing systems. So that's the only difference that we see, or the customization that we see. So a startup can just take things from us off the shelf. But an established organization, we have to maneuver around and find our fit there, our buying there, so that we don't hamper the current systems. At the same time, we seamlessly blend into it.
It could also be that you compartmentalize the implementation. Quite good. Is there any hypothetical situation or relevance to bring in the relevance to be well understood by the audience? Any hypothetical situation that you are able to call out, and then how any of the tool that you are recommending is implementable?
Hypothetical situation, if we have to say something which is a burning scenario currently everywhere across the globe, is the layoffs. Now, so layoffs are inevitable. We don't say that because you are practicing spiritual HRM, you don't lay off. That's not doable, because there are certain realities in the market which can't be done away with. Some things are pure organizational control also. The question is how you do it. We have one parameter of compassion. So are you compassionate while laying off employees? That is very critical for the organizational internal branding and external branding. So what we see is for knee-jerk reactions, or in an esteem that I am an XYZ organization, I am going to get fresh talent whenever I want. There have been very incompassionate instances which breaks a psychological contract between the employer and the employee. Never ever the current employees are going to trust that particular employer, so obviously their productivity decreases, and then you start figuring out on the growth chart and the balance sheets that even after layoffs and cost cutting, why are we not growing? Also, then you don't get fresh talent also, because the new generation that we have, they are very aware of where they are valued and where they are not valued. So having a compassionate approach to it, wherein you are being made comfortable about it, you are being made transparent about it. So even recently there was almost a joke about a certain company which did some well-being initiative, and whoever said positives test, and there was a news of mass layoff, and then a knee-jerk reaction saying, oh no, it was just a PR. You can't have a PR on these things. It's highly insensitive. So that's the thing that it's targeting. It's a culture.
So will it be too idealistic in the real scenario? Sorry if it is sounding a little leading.
Good you ask. Because all initiatives which deal with certain parameters to start off have been called highly idealistic. You take it Kaizen, or you take it Six Sigma or Zero Defect per se. So when it came in, the first thing at the shop floor was, how can you have zero defect? How can you have quality parameters everywhere? How can shop floor have a shop, the workers at the shop floor give you suggestions? So it's always starts with, is it an utopic concept, something which is not doable? This thing that I can give for this is almost like Roger Bannister's 4-minute mile. So it is, so once he did it, within a year 4-5 athletes broke his record. But before he broke that record, it was seen to be something which is not achievable by human physique. So it's all starts with, do you believe that it is doable, or do you have companies who are doing it? So exactly that is the reason why we have included examples in this book, wherein we did interview also a few companies. One of company CEO, Mr. Devendra Das, we have DV Analytics, we have their example also. We have Malaka Spice, we have Terence Wills Academy, and a few secondary examples like the Taj Group and a lot more, Herman Miller, etc.
Yes, that would be really interesting. I mean, is there something that you'd like to, in the interest that not everybody might have attended your first book release, Dr. Anshul Gupta, you'd want to, bring in some elements where you see a correlation between both the two? Is it going to be a sequel with continuation, or a sequel with complete change? Something that you want to highlight?
The first book that I had was only a conceptual understanding, wherein we elaborated a lot more on the dimensions of workplace spirituality, what it is, in the depths of it. There we just touched the scales in the form of a table. And we had an entire chapter wherein the role of HR, which plays in terms of implementing spirituality at work, and we concluded by saying that after personal management, HRM, HRD, SHRM, that is spiritual HRM, is something that we propose should be the next phase of managing humans at work. So that's where the first book ended. So the second book started taking threads from the first one with first the model of implementation. So if a company has to implement it, how it starts from having workplace spirituality, how it impacts the employer, the employee, the benefits to the organization, and then on what parameters it has sustained competitive advantage. So that's the entire model that's there. So that there is no question then, where is it fitting? Is it hitting the right parameters or not? Then we have scales. A few very prominent scales we have cited. So one of which is ours also. And then we have, so anything that we do in the current world where we are living, it is very important to put down the ethical concerns. Because if ethics are not in place, employee being exploited at spirit level will be a higher form of, something that will be very intolerable. So it is very necessary to have certain ethics in place. The challenges also need to be seen in the mirror. So that those are there. And then we have examples. And then we have, so over the last 1 year, we got to know the pertinent questions that keep coming in. So we included that in the movie.
Maybe I have a question for the audience. After listening out in detail from Dr. Anshul Gupta, how many of you are thinking that this book is going to be quite a religious-oriented book? No one? Wow. Your job is done.
Thank you. At least that separation is there in place.
What role do you see as an employee that I might play in contributing to the corporate spirituality? When I say I as an employee, that's applicable to all of us.
So as an employee, if I have to answer that, we go back to the concept of workplace spirituality. So the concept of workplace spirituality is an interaction of individual and organizational spirituality. So we measure it both ways. So our scale measures first the individuals, and then the organizational rating is also assessed. The individual has to have certain parameters that when you're working at the workplace, or if you're thinking of joining a workplace, are you joining it only for money, or are you really does it connects to what you want to do in life, with your purpose in life? Do you find meaning in life through the kind of role that you are seeking? Asking that question, you might not find that role right away, but seeking is important. That awareness is important. Is it a 40%, 60%, 80%, or 100%? Then the value system of the organization and your personal value system, is it matching? So generally what we see in the interviews is the interviewer asks certain questions and we answer and etc. It is very necessary that the individuals also assess, even within the organization, am I undergoing a lot of ethical dilemmas all the time? So that restricts the person's potential of giving 100%. Then having a sense of community. So when you're working in your company, do you want to only, you only want to perform, you only want to work, or you have a sense of community for yourself? Are you compassionate? So these are the individual things which the individual needs to be aware of. So that is individual spirituality.
I mean, this is something that we can try to take as your third book towards, in the early ages and the schooling and, the study time. I'm sure if I were to be a student, I would have said, okay, I don't relate myself to these subjects, so I'm not a good student.
Kasturi, the major thing that I have realized during this research is, so all these things that we are doing at workplace are the end thing. It should actually start, as you were rightly said, at a very early stage in schools, HSC levels, that's the higher secondary levels, then in the colleges. So if the base is very strong, then very less is what we have to do at workplace. We all would already be on the same page.
So the journey of your research to book, and now what?
So now we have a small startup, that's the corporatespirituality.com. So this startup deals with implementing these concepts. We have 3 target audiences. We have the government, for whom we worked a bit in terms of devising and suggesting certain policies for them for employee well-being. Then we have schools and colleges. And the third and the most important target audience is the corporates. So wherein we conduct workshops, we have coaching, we have consultancy on workplace spirituality, and we have leadership development. And we have certifications also. So if an individual, if the organization is not getting convinced, and individuals are convinced that they really want to know more about it, we have 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours certifications in place.
I know you are part of the ancient Indian wisdom, not from a religious perspective, but more from a cultural perspective. What correlation would you see? I mean, I picked up this book or to talk to you more from my inclination towards ancient Indian wisdom. So what correlation would you see, and how easy it is for the Indian setup or the Coast Indian audience to absorb and imbibe these values?
So these values that we are talking of, I would again repeat, that is finding meaning in life through work, having interconnectedness at work, your values, organization values matching, compassion, acknowledging inner life, they are not new to the Indian context. So if we see, our cultural fabric has always propagated these values. The ancient wisdom, which I have been very much exposed through Chiranjeev Gurukul of my mentor Rajesh Kamath sir, there also they resonate with these values, but the context is more of the our ancient wisdom. These principles are not something that have been devised out of the blue. These principles have been taken 100% from the ancient wisdom only. Just that they have been packaged in an implementable way in the real-time workplace. That's the only difference.
Anything else that you have to share as a closing remark? And these were some of my clarifications, if anything from the audience, if anyone wants to throw up some questions or understanding.
This is coming again from the professional HR and mostly training side. I would like to very quickly ask, the generation in India is changing. They're getting younger and younger. How do you think they will respond to this? We are told that they are not emotionally balanced, but that is not the fact. They need emotional dependency. So how will your inputs help them?
So somewhere down the line, from what we read in the news and see around us, the new generation, that is Gen Z, then Alpha, etc., it is becoming more and more difficult to manage them at workplace. And the crux of it lies in that they ask a lot of questions. They are constantly challenging the status quo, something that we are not used to. But if they are given this logical, parameters in place on which they can anchor on, what they lack is anchoring. They are not ready to take up your value system at the workplace. They would say no. They would want their value system to resonate. So it's high time we give them that window. So this concept of workplace spirituality provides that window wherein they can anchor themselves. They will not work unless they see value in what they are doing. So that is finding meaning. So they would, if they don't like the culture, they would just one line mail and they would leave and go. So culture is something that we are addressing.
Writing a book is not easy, right? But if I have to ask you to maybe one of your favorite chapters or something that we should take home from the book, what would that be? Like if you can just maybe summarize it or kind of put a context to it, that would make our reading much easier and connected. Yeah.
My favorite chapter, I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, all chapters become your babies. So, but if I have to pick, the most relevant thing in the current context will be the practical implementation examples that we have cited from the interviews that we have taken from organizations and few from secondary sources. So those are something that I hold very close, is because those are the outcomes of what actually needs to be done. Those are little snippets. So because obviously right now there is no company which has fully implemented it. But having those examples gives that right kind of a boost and that right kind of something that people can look forward to, is it a reality? So it is an answer that yes, it is a reality.
Thank you so much for listening out, and I truly enjoyed a conversation with you, Dr. Anshul Gupta, and I'm sure all of you as well. And I did little justice of bringing some facts to the surface. Thank you so much.